everyone, welcome to another Overrated Film Saturday, and today I thought it'd be interesting to focus on a Liam Neeson film. This is one of his more recent works, and actually one of the works that I think a lot of people actually know him from, um, only because he is a fairly old actor, so I think that a lot of people, especially within the younger generation who are not aware of his older material, probably look to this film in particular as, I guess, somehow as a standout for him. Only because I think there is an understanding that this film is obviously not as good as uh, as as far as the hype is concerned. I think it's just an enjoyably bad movie, and that's why a lot of people, I think, get suckered into watching it. But obviously, I still think it is overrated for what it ultimately provides, um, even for a very cheesy, bad action movie. And again, it's not to say that the critics in particular cared for this one. This is one of these films that did not sit well with a lot of them. But it did make a significant chunk of change at the box office, and it unleashed uh, a desire for sequels. And I believe we've gotten 3 total. So Taken 2, and then Taken 3. I believe that's how they're titled, if I'm not mistaken. But a lot of them involving the same plot, pretty much. But basically, what I think drew a lot of people to seeing this film in particular is just seeing Liam Neeson in particular, him being in this kind of a role. And it kind of propelled him into doing these more action-y type roles where, usually people don't really kind of, at least initially, I didn't know him for. Um, I guess it shows how old I am. I watched Schindler's List, so it's definitely a lot different to see him in this kind of a role. And I think a lot of people, in particular, enjoyed the way in which he approached the acting because, again, for the little amount that he was given, he still manages to pull off being rather entertaining, to say the least, especially with his dialogue. They have the famous line where he's like, "I have a particular set of skills," and he just goes on a full on threat rant, and it's pretty hilarious in that sense and how they approach certain aspects of the film. And I think that's why a lot of people genuinely liked it. They liked it for it being kind of stupid and silly and goofy. But I think, unfortunately for me, this is where the novelty and the over exaggeration and let's just keep constantly throwing this movie out there. That's when it kind of just wears off on me, and I just kind of go, okay, all right, we get it. Yeah, Taken, all right. Okay, but so in case you don't know what this film is about, it basically follows a former CIA operative who is named Brian Mills, who's played by none other than Liam Neeson, and he ultimately discovers that his daughter is kidnapped, and you will figure out the who, what, where, when, and why if you choose to watch this film. Now, it's very simple, this film, and how it approaches things. And I think the best way in which I can describe it is like it's like an action movie, in the way that Nicholas Sparks is kind of a romance movie, or Nicholas Sparks's books are like that are converted into romance movies are for romance, because they strip everything down so that everything is really kind of oversimplified, and you know, you still get the kind of cliche, generic things that you see time and time again in these movies. Like Liam Neeson is divorced, the wife is a meanie, or the ex-wife's a meanie. You know, he just wants to take care of his daughter, and you know, the daughter is a teenager, and you know, you have that whole uh, father trying to save daughter thing, and you know, it's the same kind of it's just kind of this generic spiel that they play up to. That again is, I think, something that wears off fairly quickly, because again, we don't really see him interacting too much with the daughter. You know, she's pretty much captured right at the beginning of the film. So again, there's not really a huge amount of development with Liam Neeson. There's not a huge amount of development between the two. So we have a hard time, I think, really getting behind Liam Neeson trying to find his daughter and really ultimately caring and all of that. So, uh, and that's, I think, really the other thing that just doesn't um, sit too well with me within this film, especially when it's supposed to be the main focus. And yeah, and it just kind of follows these, you know, just you just have all these random sequences of action, and then you finally get to where he ultimately supposedly supposed to find his daughter, and you know, and, I mean, it's again, it just has the kind of formula, but it does it in a way to where it's kind of just so stripped down that it's hard to get behind anything that it's trying to ultimately present. And again, this film is fun for how ridiculous it is, and again, obviously some of the bits of the dialogue are also really hilarious. And that in and of itself is the most entertaining part. But once you get rid of that, it doesn't really have anything else to substantiate its I wouldn't say really its existence, but its worthiness of being considered anything more. And I'm not saying that people thought of this film that way, but I think there was this sense of liking this sort of just liking the aspects to it that I think ultimately don't uh, carry on in selling a film later on. Um, you know, just because it's ridiculous and goofy, and you know the dialogue is really just something to be beholden of. You know, it just doesn't. You know, it just doesn't. That doesn't equate it to being something that you know you go back to and you think, "Ha, that was really cheesy and goofy." Because there are those moments, but then you also have these serious moments, especially with when you see who really kidnaps his daughter. But I mean, again, it is one of those things where it does feel like it's trying to it's trying to be a good action movie, but it ultimately doesn't live up to that reputation, I think, unfortunately, because it strips it all down to make everything super simplified. And unfortunately, a lot of the things that were uh, that didn't that I think obviously didn't work with this film get transferred over to the sequels, and you sort of get a similar kind of generic, you know, setup. And obviously they involve the daughter pretty much every time. So again, it was definitely one of those action movie projects. And again, it did get sequels, so obviously people were genuinely engaged within this film, and I think it made a significant amount of change to justify these sequels. So again, initially, obviously, me saying that the first one's overrated, I think is really what ultimately has allowed for the sequels to occur. And I think it's really I mean, it's not that I in particular um I would say dislike this film actually. I just think that it's that when you look at a lot of other cheesy action films that have come and gone, there have been others that have been, I think, maybe more so memorable to me, or ones that were better constructed um, than this. So that's just my honest opinion, though. I'd be more than happy to hear what anybody else has to say, but I think that's really ultimately all I can say for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.